2 world wars: Korea, Vietnam, Iraq. In the last 100 years, the United States has been directly involved in over a dozen wars and conflicts. But is there another war that has been hidden from the public? One that continues to this day? A potential threat the government has consistently denied for nearly a century. A war against an extraterrestrial enemy.
The recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
The United States could be fighting the deadliest, most influential war of all time against the greatest opposition our planet has ever faced. Join us as we reveal the real-life battles that could prove the next great war will be a war of the worlds. What if the history you were taught in school was all a lie? Is our government controlled by a secret society? Welcome to the world of conspiracy, where cover-ups, secrets, and hidden agendas all trace back to a single source. We're about to unseal the secret files the government doesn't want you to know about. This is Unsealed Conspiracy Files. 1941. Pearl Harbor is bombed by the Empire of Japan. Most of our Navy destroyed. For the first time, Americans learn what it is like to be attacked by a foreign power on our own soil. But aside from the story we all know, something else is happening. Something terrifying.
We had just entered World War II. Los Angeles was fearing another Pearl Harbor type attack. People were afraid they were next.
Los Angeles, California, 1942. In the early morning hours, the city is awakened in a startling blackout. Air raid sirens begin to blow. Citizens are roused from their beds. They run outside to see a craft in the skies over Los Angeles. An invasion has begun by a craft that may not be human.
Nobody knows what this unidentified object is, and the military steps in and does what it does best. It tries to bring it down.
Military converged on the scene. They focused searchlights on it, and they actually tried to shoot it down.
The forces at Fort MacArthur fire more than 1,400 anti-aircraft shells at an unidentified flying object caught in the military spotlights. But the object does not fall.
No matter what the military throws at this object, we can't penetrate whatever is protecting it. We can't bring it down.
This sighting is called the Battle of Los Angeles for a reason. There was shrapnel falling. This was a total blackout, so there was a virtual panic. Actually, 5 people died. But it was a big, big deal. This was a state of war we were in.
Then suddenly, in the midst of gunfire, the craft simply retreats back over the Pacific Ocean and disappears. Was Los Angeles invaded by an alien craft that night? And why couldn't we destroy it?
Even today, people will tell you, it never happened. It was a bunch of people panicking. Wrong. Go back to February 1942 and look at the headlines in the LA Times. It was a real object.
This photograph from the following morning's Los Angeles Times may provide proof that the UFO invading Los Angeles on February 25th, 1942 was not from planet Earth.
If you look at this photo, you can clearly see this very large, round, glowing object. You can actually see the rounds of ammunition exploding next to it. It's a remarkable photograph that shows what's clearly an unexplained object of some kind. I think the best theory that we have, honestly, is an extraterrestrial craft.
But the theory of alien invasion was not embraced by the U.S. government. At least, not publicly.
The military can't identify what exactly this object was, but they had to explain it to the public. And what do? They simply claim it was a balloon. When you look at how much firepower was thrown at that thing and nothing touched it, that's not any type of balloon that exists even today.
Despite countless expert rebuttals that no balloon could withstand such an attack, the U.S. military sticks to the story until this day. Demands for a logical explanation are met with government silence.
In 1947, Truman signed the National Security Act, which essentially concealed events like this and potentially future UFO events from the public's eye.
The Battle of Los Angeles was just the beginning of what some believe has been a decades-long conflict between aliens and the United States. And it's the next event in America's UFO history that blows the lid off the most famous alien military encounter of all time. When we return, Unsealed Conspiracy Files. Welcome back to the world of conspiracy. This is Unsealed Conspiracy Files. The Battle of Los Angeles in 1942 proved to much of the world that contact with extraterrestrials might not only be possible, but has already happened. The incident was just the beginning of a suspected conspiracy to hide conflict between the United States and alien invaders. But nothing had prepared the U.S. for the most public alien military encounter of all time. Unsealed Case File. Roswell. Roswell, New Mexico. A small desert town, home to the men and women of Roswell Army Airfield. In early July 1947, troops from the base are sent to investigate mysterious wreckage reported in the hostile desert. Allegedly, the site is quickly secured, but not before soldiers, firemen, and local residents reportedly see what appears to be a downed alien craft and its occupants dead. But are the stories true?
Just after the wreckage was found in Roswell, New Mexico, the military came out and said that they had captured a flying saucer. Newspapers ran the story. Radio reports were blasted out through the airwaves.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Quickly, an official military report was released, squashing UFO rumors, stating the object was a simple weather balloon. But confessions of men who claimed to be there, such as retired Sergeant Frank Kaufman, tell a very different story.
We learned right then and there it wasn't a plane, it wasn't a mishap. The size of the craft, I would say possibly maybe around 20, 25 feet in length, and it was open and kind of halfway, and one body was half out of the craft. And when we got in close, we noticed that there were probably 3 others inside the craft. Then we radioed in back to the base to have a truck, a flatbed, and a crane and everything else just come out to the site. And we prepared everything to clear everything off.
Some alleged civilian witnesses have also come forward with stories of a government cover-up. Frankie Rowe, a child at the time, recounts a visit from the local airfield officers.
And he said, I want you to know you were never there. I didn't understand what he meant, because I said, yes, I was. And he said, no, you weren't. I said, yes, I was. And he said, can't you get this through your head? You never saw anything. You were not there. You don't know anything. And he said, this is a big desert out here. We can just take you out in the middle of this desert and no one will ever find your bodies. He said, you'll be nothing but bones and nobody will ever know what happened to you. And I told him I would not talk about it.
This 1950 document from the FBI vault could prove that we not only recovered flying saucers in the New Mexico desert, but that we found 3 small bodies inside the craft, dressed in metallic cloth. Did the military know that the flying disc reportedly found was a craft from another world? And if so, What was done with the recovered craft?
This is Hangar 84, and this is where the craft and the bodies were actually brought into this hangar. But there was a lot of activity in this area here. And inside the hangar, right above on top, there was this large spotlight which was shining down on the craft, and also the bodies were laid out. There were 5 of them. And there was a cordon of military police around the area to keep people getting too close.
So what happened after the crash at Roswell? Well, on the one hand, it was totally covered up, and it would remain covered up for at least the next 31 years, but other things happened.
In the decades that follow, U.S. military technology begins to advance. Faster rockets, more sophisticated machinery. In less than a decade, America has a man in space. Just 20 years after Roswell, a man walks on the moon. Many see these advances as evidence of America's brush with UFO technology. In the years after Roswell, UFO sightings increased tenfold. But the most frightening evidence points to the unthinkable. A hostile alien life force that crashed and is battling our military right here on planet Earth. Coming up next, the bloodiest alien-human firefight in reported history, told by the one man who survived. Unsealed Conspiracy Files. Welcome back to the world of conspiracy. This is Unsealed Conspiracy Files. The Battle of Los Angeles. The alien UFO crash at Roswell. On their own, both contain startling evidence of alien invaders in America. But it wasn't until recently that we discovered just how seriously the military viewed this alien threat. Unsealed Case File, Air Force Instruction 10206. In 2011, undeniable proof of the military's concern regarding UFOs is uncovered in U.S. Air Force files. The evidence is an operation manual known as 10206. Contained in its pages are instructions for military personnel on reporting UFOs.
This was not a manual from the 1960s or 1970s. We now have a manual, undeniable proof that the military was still actively investigating these UFO records, these UFO reports, and these UFO sightings. That's very, very significant because that is 100% contradictory to what the military wants you to believe.
AF 10206 could be a smoking gun that exposes an alien threat that the U.S. government is, and maybe has been aware of, for over 60 years. Unsealed Case File, the Presidential Alien Pact. Palm Springs, California. In 1954, U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower is on vacation when suddenly, on the night of February 20th, he disappears for what he later reports was an unplanned dental appointment. A story several theorists dispute. Witnesses who came forward in later decades support the story, claiming to have seen Eisenhower report to nearby Edwards Air Force Base, all in an attempt to allegedly meet face-to-face with leaders of an advanced alien race.
Purported witnesses to this event claimed that Eisenhower was actually asked there by the extraterrestrials in order to make some sort of deal.
The 1954 treaty is said to have included the following deal. Mankind gets the use of alien technology. Aliens get human test subjects for experiments, many of them women and children. It is a tale corroborated by multiple insiders, including former government geologist Phil Schneider.
Eisenhower signed a pact with the known alien species of the time. There were 3 at the time, and said that we're going to deal in high technology, but you can take a few head of cattle and a few human beings and you can experiment on them. It's unthinkable. It's stuff straight out of the Nazi death camps.
According to Schneider, experiments on humans are taking place in a highly classified secret base 2 miles underneath the desert in Dulce, New Mexico.
I was involved in building a base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground.
Reports state that the base is 7 levels deep. Each one requires a higher security clearance than the last. But the deepest levels are allegedly used only by alien researchers for their experiments on human beings.
The 7th level is where only the aliens were, and it is literally a chamber of horrors. Human body parts are floating in this blue liquid vats. Human beings are being literally cloned. Human body parts being used, recombined with alien body parts. No human beings allowed.
The tales are so terrifying that it has become known as Nightmare Hall, a place where no man, woman, or child is safe.
Right now, there's 100,000 children totally unaccountable through FBI archives, cannot be traced anywhere. They haven't been murdered. Nobody's ever seen them. I think they're hauled underneath in some of these bases, and they are summarily done away with, and they are literally eaten.
According to Schneider, 11 alien races occupied Dulce, performing horrific experiments on their human test subjects. In August of 1979, Schneider claims special forces, including the Army's Green Berets, entered the underground base. It was here that Schneider, one of the first responders, claims to have been gravely injured. Confronted with hostile 7-foot-tall aliens, Schneider says he drew his sidearm and fired on the creatures, killing 2.
The next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force because of the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt.
Some dismiss these claims as fantasy, but in recent months, the news media has reported on a battle between armed forces around the world and an unnamed alien threat. Coming up next, the incredible story ripped from the headlines that could reveal a global conspiracy and the shocking truth of a secret alien war. Unsealed Conspiracy Files. Welcome back to the world of conspiracy. This is Unsealed Conspiracy Files. The time to act is now. There are 3 simple steps you can take to unseal the truth.
Follow on Twitter.
Follow the Unsealed Twitter feed to receive breaking news of the latest conspiracies as they develop.
Tell your story.
What did you see that you shouldn't have?
The government's known about it all along. Why has nobody told us?
Upload stories and pictures to our interactive map.
Join the movement.
Get the Unsealed bracelet and the unique code hidden underneath to access exclusive content. Stop living in the dark.
It is definitely coming this way.
Get involved in the fight to unseal the truth. Now. The U.S. government denies any existence of an extraterrestrial threat to our planet. But the news media tells a different story. Just off the coast of Northern California, on September 17th, 2012, the online newspaper, Veterans Today, reports that naval warships from the U.S. and China have joined forces over the Pacific Ocean to fight a highly unfriendly extraterrestrial threat. If true, the global conspiracy to conceal an ongoing alien war may be over. Decades of hiding the extraterrestrial threat could be crumbling. This may just be the first alarm that a war of the worlds has begun. And we are about to join the fight. Unsealed Conspiracy Files.